Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another Facebook Live. I'm Dr. Alexis Conason, and I am so excited for you to be here today. If anyone's joining me live, I'd love to know that you're here. Please feel free to drop a comment or say hi in the message box. Today, we're going to be talking about overeating and really diving into the question of is it really about the food or is something else going on in these moments? But before we dive in, I want to introduce myself. And even before I do that, I just wanted to ask, has everyone in here had Nutella? Because I just need to go off on a little side tangent for a minute because I have just discovered this amazing, fabulous food. And I've really been thinking about why it is that I've never eaten this before, because it's like a huge, it's popular, but it's amazing. And it has not been a part of my life. Are there any Nutella fans here? So what I was thinking about is that it's not that I never knew that this food existed. It's that I think I had tried it back in my dieting days and said, this is probably not such a good food. It's a food that I shouldn't be eating. And I kind of just crossed it off the list. And when I stopped dieting and started really embracing a mindful eating approach and noticing that all foods fit, we have some Nutella fans. It's amazing. What have I been doing for all these years? So as I've been, embracing an all foods fit and really it's just about what our body needs, I somehow neglected to reintegrate this food into my diet and into my life, and I have really been missing out. So I'm just concerned for you guys. If there's anyone here who's not eating Nutella, get with the party. It's amazing. You don't need to live your life without Nutella. And that's the problem with diet culture. It can lead to a Nutella-free life. It's a tragedy. It's really a tragedy. Anyways, that's a little tangent, but I just don't want anyone to experience all of those Nutella-free years that I do. I don't want that to happen to anyone else. So I'm back in the Nutella party, and I hope you all will join me here. So back to introducing myself. As I said, I'm Dr. Alexis Conason, and in addition to being a newfound Nutella fan, I am also a clinical psychologist. I'm in private practice in New York City, and I'm the founder of the Anti-Diet Plan. And for all of you who are on my newsletter list, I hope you saw that I made a really big announcement yesterday, and I am just so excited to share this with all of you on my Facebook community, because I know some of you may not be on my newsletter list. But I have been working my behind off for the past 7 months, bringing my in-person program, the Anti-Diet Plan, which is a group that I developed in my practice, and I've been leading as an in-person group for over 7 years now in my practice. And I have been working to put this entire course online so that it can be more accessible for people who aren't just based in New York or can't necessarily get to my office. And I've done it. The course is open. It is available for you to buy. I am super excited about it. I can't wait to hear what everyone thinks. I dropped the link in the comments section, so if anyone wants to check out the more information about the course, you can do that there. But I think it's an amazing program. I was able to bring, I think, everything that I teach in my in-person course, plus a little bit of extras, because it's just me talking, so I had a little bit more time to give even more information than what I usually give in the in-person course. And then we're going to have a weekly live group. So every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, if you're part of this group, you're going to meet with other people on the Anti-Diet Plan journey. And I think I talked a little bit in the Facebook Live last week about why I think groups are so transformative and so important. I just wrote an article about this on Psychology Today, if anybody wants to check that out. And groups are one of the most meaningful ways that I've seen people make long-term, long-lasting changes in the clinical work that I've been doing, and especially with issues around food. I just think there's something really powerful about connecting with other people who are going through the same thing and being on this journey together, because we are inundated with diet talk, diet language, diet culture. It's just everywhere. So I think we really need to form a community to support each other as we try to move away from diet culture and move towards a more peaceful, joyful, and pleasurable relationship with food and our bodies. And that's just what I'm hoping that you'll do in the Anti-Diet Plan, which is now an online course. It's a 6-week program, and I just feel really honored to be able to share all of this information that I've gathered over my over 7 years working in private practice, over 10 years working in the fields of mindfulness and eating issues, and be able to share that knowledge I've gained, and also the knowledge that I've gained from working with all of my individual clients. I always say my clients are my biggest teachers. I learn so much from everybody who works with me and really is so brave and vulnerable to allow me on their journey with them. And I've learned a tremendous amount, and I think I've taken a lot of that wisdom that I've gathered over the years and put it into this course. I really actually feel like I've poured my heart and soul into this. So I hope that it comes out to be exactly what you need to help you in your journey away from dieting. So anyway, moving on to the topic that we came to talk about today, which is overeating really about the food? Does anybody know where somebody who's struggling with overeating is most likely to go for help? Like, who's the first point of contact for somebody who's struggling with issues around food? Does anybody know? I'll give you a hint. It's not usually a therapist. The most common initial point of contact for somebody who's struggling with issues around food is most often it's a diet plan. So if you're looking for a group of people who are struggling with issues around food, check out Weight Watchers, Jenny Craig, Nutrisystem. Any of those programs are going to be filled with people who are struggling with their issues around food. So why do these people go and seek help in somewhere like a diet program versus coming to see someone like me, a therapist, to deal with their issues around food from an emotional or psychological perspective? The reason that most people will go to a diet program to seek help rather than a therapist is because most people see their issues around food as being about food. So we tend to think if we can just get our eating under control, everything's going to be okay. And getting our eating under control, we tend to think of as following some kind of plan. So if we can just get some guidelines on what we should be eating and be held accountable, that's going to solve all of our problems around food and lead to this better, happier, healthier, more successful life that we're promised, right? So that is the promise of diet culture. And that is something that people tend to buy into, and why the first point of contact for people struggling around issues with food is seldom a therapist. It's a diet program or somewhere where we're going to be told what to eat, when to eat, and try to resolve these struggles just through food. And I want to make the point that, I actually don't think that, hi Terry, thanks for joining us. If anyway, I see some more people have joined live, feel free to say hello and ask any comments or questions that you may have. I'm happy to answer them as I'm talking. So, we tend to, so I don't think that overeating is really so much about the food. And I have a lot of people who come in and they see me and they, say that they're struggling with overeating. That's by far the most common reason that people come to see me, because that's my specialty. That's what I work with. And I'll often say, well, what do you think is going on with that? And sometimes people say, well, I just really like food, or I just can't seem to get my eating under control. And we look at it from this very simplistic perspective of just that I'm eating too much, I'm eating the wrong things, I need to get, it's this personal responsibility kind of ethos that we have in our culture that, you know, if we just could get our act together and have more motivation and willpower and do what we're supposed to do, then you know, we'd be able to stop overeating. And it is so much more complicated than that. So I think that it's impossible to address your issues around food without addressing the emotional components around that. And when I say the emotional components, I don't just mean the kind of interpsychic issues. So that's psychologists speak for the problems that are going on inside your mind. But it also, in, you know, when I think of emotional issues around food, I also think about the issues that are kind of ingrained in us from diet culture. So things like making us mistrust our own bodies, making us feel not good enough about ourselves, making us feel that we have to go against the wisdom that our body's telling us, that we have to fight against our bodies, that we have to become something else other than what we currently are, and that there's one, you know, very narrow vision of what it means to be healthy and what it means to be beautiful, and in our culture that means to be thin. So the way that we take those things in actually creates a lot of emotional conflict and turmoil around food. So it's not just, you know, it's not that what goes on inside of our mind exists in a little bubble, but rather what goes on in our mind is extremely influenced by our culture and all of these outside factors. So it's not just about the individual issues here that each of us struggles with, but how the culture kind of comes in and, you know, I was going to say affects, but I almost said infects, and I think that infects is a good word, kind of infects our psyche and causes disease inside of our mind. It causes us to feel out of control and really kind of wacky around food. So it's not just an individual issue, but it has to do, it's political. It has to do with our culture and the investment that our culture has in making people, especially women, but more and more men and women, feel not good enough about their bodies and feel that we have to change in order to be acceptable. And the impact of that psychologically is really devastating for a lot of us. And I see a lot of people in my practice who are incredibly smart, savvy, successful, kind, compassionate people who are doing amazing things in the world, yet are preoccupied, really, you know, overly focused on feeling that there's something deeply and fundamentally wrong with them because of their way that their body looks, right? So I don't know if anybody can identify with that, if that resonates with anybody, but a lot of us are out there walking around feeling not good enough about ourselves. So that becomes an emotional issue. That becomes a psychological issue. It doesn't matter if you go to Weight Watchers and they tell you what to eat, or it doesn't matter if you eliminate gluten or sugar or whatever the food villain of the day is. It's really about addressing the emotional issues that make us feel so out of control around food. And one of those emotional issues is the urge to fight against our own body and to mistrust ourselves and to feel that we can't rely on the wisdom and the information that our body is sending us. So that is one way that our emotion, you know, our psyche really can make us feel out of control with food. So, you know, I guess I just wanted to take this moment to pop in here and say that we tend to, you know, seek out help around the food, but often overeating has absolutely nothing to do with the food. I would say it is most often related to, you know, psychological and emotional issues, and therapy is a great place to start addressing some of those some of those issues. Now, you know, I also want to take a moment and just say that overeating is not inherently problematic. I think the thing that becomes so problematic about overeating is, again, the psychological consequences of it. It's the way that we beat ourselves up, that we, the guilt, the shame, the isolation, the feeling that, you know, we've done something so terrible and so bad. You know, everybody overeats sometimes. That is a totally natural, normal part of being a human being. Is, you know, sometimes we have more to eat than our body needs. Sometimes that's for, you know, in direct relation of what we would think of as emotional eating. We might have a piece of cake at a birthday party when we're not actually hungry. We might feel sad and have some ice cream. We might feel happy and celebrate with a, fancy dinner out. All of these things are totally normal, and we, overeat. Everybody overeats sometimes. What's not healthy and what becomes problematic is what we do to ourselves afterwards. It's the way that we beat ourselves up. It's the way that we say, oh, I can't believe that I did that. What's wrong with me? I'm such a, terrible person. I have no willpower. I have no motivation. I'm disgusting. I'm a pig. I mean, everybody has their own narrative, but these are things that we say to ourselves. I mean, we say things to ourselves that we wouldn't even say to our worst enemies, most of us. We are so hard on ourselves. And then this perpetuates a cycle where we might say, oh, I need to get back on a diet plan. I need to restrict what I'm eating. See, I can't trust my body. My body doesn't lead me in a good direction. And it makes us feel more and more out of control around food, because the more that we then restrict, the more we're going to overeat. And overeating is often our body's natural reaction to restriction. And that means that our body's healthy. It means that our body is trying to keep us stay nourished and, well fed. I often have clients who say, that they've been restricting and they feel really upset when they end up binging or overeating. And they may think I'm kind of nuts, but I'll often say, like, well, thank goodness that happened. Thank goodness your body was smart enough to know that it needed those calories and it sought them out however it could. Now, I don't want to minimize that experience of binging or eating in ways that feel out of control is not enjoyable. Like, that can be an awful experience. I don't want to diminish that. But I also think that we have to recognize that sometimes that is our body's natural reaction, and it means that we're healthy, that we're trying to stay in balance in a very out of balance world, and in a patterns that we engage in around food that feel totally out of whack. So I think I'm saying all of this to say that I think it's really important not to oversimplify things, not to think that the answer is in going to Weight Watchers or Jenny Craig or any of those other diet plans out there. Because if we are struggling with chronically eating more than feels comfortable for us, and that feels problematic and it doesn't feel good for us, the answer is not more restriction. The answer is not to figure out, what to eat and what not to eat. The answer is to deal with the emotional stuff that's going on, the emotional stuff that gets ingrained in us from our culture, and the emotional stuff that is unique to each one of us. But to sort through all of the emotional issues and try to come to a more peaceful and harmonious relationship with food and our body. And I just don't think we're going to be able to do that through just addressing the food, because I think it's really about the emotions. So that is one of the reasons that I created my program, the Anti-Diet Plan, is that I saw there was a lot out there from dietitians and certainly from diet companies, even integrating mindfulness and mindful eating. Weight Watchers now says that they are doing mindful eating. I, for one, would disagree, but that's the beauty of the USA, that we can all have our own opinions, but I certainly do not think that anything Weight Watchers is doing anywhere resembles mindful eating. In fact, I would say it's probably the opposite of mindful eating. And I wrote about that in my blog if anyone wants to hear more of my thoughts. But I saw that there was a lack in programs that integrated mindfulness and self-compassion and addressed people's issues around food from a psychological perspective, not about what to eat, when to eat, how to eat, but really to get into the psyche of why we're eating in the ways that we are that don't feel good to us and how to get our way out of it. And that's why I say my program isn't just about changing your eating, it's about changing your relationship with food. And I think that, that's kind of what makes the world go around, right? It's relationships, and our eating, we're in relationship to our food, to our eating, to our bodies, and it's that relationship that needs to change. And that happens from an emotional perspective. So I'm going to bring our time together here to a close, but I want to thank everybody for joining me today, and I'm going to be here again. I'm here every Wednesday at noon. I'm going to be here next week doing a whole session on Q&A about the anti-diet plan program, and I almost forgot the big announcement for today. So my program, as I said initially, is up. It is available for sale. And if you purchase the program before October 22nd, which is when the group is actually going to begin, you can get a huge savings. So I'm only releasing the program for sale to people who are either on my email list, who are following me on social media, and it's really my way of kind of showing the love to all of you who have been loyal to me and who have been following me and who want to kind of take this leap of faith with me on this brand new program that I've just developed, and I'm hoping you'll give me some feedback along the way in exchange for getting this nice discount. But the program is going to be discounted 40%. 40% for just this first round. The price is going to go way up in January when we're going to be launching again. That's when the next program is going to be. So if you're interested in joining, I really encourage you to get on board for this initial run of the online program. I really don't think you're going to be disappointed. And you can find all the information to sign up at the 40% discount in the comments section. I have it listed, a link to the page. So, and if you have any questions about the program, I'm going to be answering them all next week on Facebook Live here at noon. I hope you'll get in touch with any questions. You can comment here on Facebook. You can direct message me. You can get in touch with me on Instagram. I'm at The Anti-Diet Plan, Twitter at Psy.D, or email info@drconison.com. I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear all of your questions about the new program. It's really been, like I said, a passion project of mine, and I'm just delighted to talk to anyone who wants to listen about it. So if you have any questions, it would really be my pleasure, truly, to be able to get on a call and talk to you and just answer whatever it is that you have. So thank you all for joining me today on Facebook Live. I will see you next week, and I hope we'll be in touch before then. Take care.